All right, today we're diving into something huge, a geopolitical earthquake, really. A single deal that could completely reshape Canada's future on the world stage. Picture this, it's January 16th, 2026, and a headline drops that just floors everyone. The Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has just signed a major strategic partnership with China. This comes after a 2-year diplomatic freeze between the two countries, so yeah, this is a big deal. So that's the big question, right? In a world where it's all about the US versus China, why on earth would Canada, America's closest neighbor and ally, make a move like this? What could possibly be worth such a monumental risk? Okay, so to really get this, we've got to look at the numbers. This wasn't just some friendly handshake. No, this was a deal built on some very precise, very calculated economic math. So, at its core, you've got this really smart, really precise swap. Canada is giving Chinese car companies a limited, specific way into its electric vehicle market. And in exchange, China is dropping all these punishing tariffs and bans on Canadian farm exports. We're talking a lifeline for Western farmers and Atlantic fishermen. And it all hinges on this one magic number, 49,000. That is the exact number of Chinese EVs that will be allowed into Canada each year. And it's not random. That number is about 25% of Canada's entire EV market. So it's a big enough slice of the pie to make it worth it for the Chinese brands, but it's capped so it doesn't just flood the market and crush local industry. And wow, this chart really shows you what that means for the average person. Before this deal, a Chinese EV had this insane 106% tariff slapped on it. Basically impossible to buy. After the deal, bam! For those 49,000 cars, it's down to a normal 6.1%. And you know, this is where the strategy gets really clever. They call it introducing a catfish to the market. By letting in these super affordable models, like the BYD Seagull, which might now sell for around 20 or 25 grand, you're suddenly shaking things up. It's a direct assault on the cost of living crisis, especially since there are almost no cheap EV options available. But here's the thing, you gotta understand, this is so much more than just trading cars for canola. This is a massive strategic shift for Canada, and it's all built on 3 main ideas, all designed to give the country a little more breathing room, a little more economic independence. So here's the new game plan. First up, they're kind of decoupling their energy from the US. They're saying, hey, our oil and gas, it's for the whole world now, not just a backup for you guys. Second, they're building a financial defense system, which is super interesting. And third, they're trying out this dual-track diplomacy, basically separating the business deals from the political argument. Let's talk about this financial bunker idea, because it's super important. Think about it, the US dollar is often used like a weapon in foreign policy, right? So Canada's building a defense. By looking at options to settle trade directly in Chinese currency, they're making sure their economic lifelines can't just be cut off by another country's sanctions. It's a financial escape hatch. Now, a deal this bold, this risky, it doesn't just happen. It took a very specific team and some really slick political moves back home to even get it off the ground. And the people who pulled this off, well, it's a pretty unlikely pair. You've got Scott Moe, a conservative premier from a farming province who's usually a fierce opponent of the Liberal government, right there in Beijing. That sends a powerful message of unity on resources. And then you have Michael Ma, a brand new MP who just switched parties, suddenly given this huge role. It's a signal that they're serious about this new relationship. Okay, so we've seen the deal, we've seen the strategy, but now we get to the really dangerous part. Because if this deal melted the ice with Beijing, well, it's about to cause an absolute blizzard from Washington. And to really feel the heat here, you have to remember the scene. We're talking a hypothetical second Trump term. His whole doctrine is America first, and he sees Canada as, well, as America's resource depot. So from his point of view, this isn't Canada being smart. This is Canada being defiant, a big no-no. So for the US, this move hits them in 3 really sensitive spots. First, it just shakes their trust to the core. We're talking about things like the Five Eyes intelligence sharing, NORAD, the bedrock of North American defense. Second, it means Canada's critical resources are now leaking to a strategic rival. And third, it sets a terrible precedent. I mean, if America's best friend can do this, who's next? And check out this timeline, because the clock is ticking, and it is ticking fast. The deal gets announced in January, and just 6 months later, the big North American trade deal is up for review. You can bet Washington has that date circled in red. Payback is going to be brutal. But the heat isn't just coming from Washington. Oh no, this deal rips open Canada's own internal divisions. You've got the West, rich in resources, who are absolutely popping the champagne for this new doorway to Asia. But then you've got the manufacturing center in Ontario, and they feel totally thrown under the bus, like their auto industry was just sacrificed. So you have to ask, why? Why take on all this risk from your biggest ally and even from within your own country? Well, the answer seems to boil down to one word: survival. Ottawa looked at an unpredictable, protectionist America and decided that being trapped inside Fortress North America was the bigger risk. This deal is their escape hatch, their gamble. But the huge question remains, is this a new highway to prosperity, or is it a road straight off a cliff? By the way, the deep dive analysis that inspired this explainer comes from Tensor Lens. If you're into this kind of hardcore analysis on tech and geopolitics, seriously, go find them on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in.